So this video will be more of a general approach on how I would send emails in Go. As well, this is the second part of a series of videos where we are building a free alternative to Readwise, and I've decided to make this a separate video just because if you want to learn more about on how to actually send emails, then you don't have to watch the whole thing, right? However, if that interests you, this is the product we are getting inspiration from, Readwise. It's a pretty neat tool that stores and sends you every day a couple of random notes and highlights from your books that you read from Kindle and other sources, as you can see here. This is what we are building in this series because this is a paid version, this is a paid product, and we are building a free open source alternative so we can learn and actually have a nice product for ourselves. But if you want to follow along, I'll be sure to leave the first part on the description below. So before we continue, I just want to give you a quick highlight of what we were doing before and what we'll have by the end of the video. So we were starting to fill this routes handler, which is this endpoint, the /cloud sends daily highlights. And what it does here is that we need to get the users from the database because we have this own database that we created where we have our users and then highlights there. What's going to happen is that we are going to get all the users that are active, and then we loop over all of the users, create, for example, 3 random highlights, and then we'll build an email and send it to them. And by the end of the video, you can expect to have this email on your inbox. So this is basically 3 highlights with the text, the book, and yeah, these are randomly generated from different books that you have stored on your database. So to get started, let's first fetch all of the users. So we can expect some sort of slice with the users and an error. And what we do is you get to the service, to the store, and let's create a function get users, which you don't have yet. Now, this is the service, and the service has a dependency, which is the storage. This storage, basically, it's the repository where we do all of the data layer fetching. And here we need to add a get users, which is going to return a slice of user again and an error. Now the signature is going to look like something like this. So then again, I have here the store, the get user methods, and we have a slice of users. Now all we need to do is get the actual rows from the database. So let's just do a get all, select all, and let's do a query, select all from users. Then we can check if the error is nil and return the error. Then all we need to do is actually map the users to this slice. So now let's start by scanning and looping the actual rows. Then we create a temporary user that the scan is going to be inserting into. Then we actually scan. And here we are basically the order matters, if you are not familiar with this. So here on user we have the ID, email, first name, and this should match, otherwise they are going to the wrong fields. Then we have the users, and we are basically appending the user to the array, and then we return it. So here on the service, we should just handle the error. And here we can just return the error, for example. So now we have an array of users. We can go to the next step, which is actually loop these users and then actually start sending the emails to them, right? So let's get the user from the range users. Now we need to get some sort of random highlights. We can do this again, it's the same pattern by going to the database and getting random highlights. So get random highlights. We actually have a method for this, do we? It's not implemented, so we already created, but we don't have a method. So here on the get random highlights, we need to do again rows, error. So now here what we can do is s.db.query. Now for the query, let's do a select all from highlights where, yeah, actually here, so we do where user ID, but here we need the user ID though. So this n is the limit of highlights that we're fetching, and then we actually need to update here with user ID and limits and user ID, like so. So where user ID, is this the name of the, no it's not. Let me see, highlights. Yeah, it's user ID. Order by rand, so this is going to get random limits, and here we pass the limits like so. So the first argument is the user ID, the second one is the limits, and we handle the error. Then we need to do again the same thing, which is we need to scan. So let's create a slice of highlights. And then we just do rows dot next, and we know the drill, right? So basically we again get temporary highlights, we scan the highlights, and then we just append it to the highlights array, and then we just return it. This is it. Then here on the service, we just need to pass the limit, which can be 3, and then the user ID, it's going to be u.id. And then we also handle the error. Here it could be internal request server error because it's not a user input. Even here it's not an user input as well, so we can just change this just to be consistent. Now we have the highlights, and what we can do with them is create the email template with these highlights, right? So what's going to happen, these highlights are going to be inserted into a template, and we just send the email. But first let me do here a check in case the user doesn't have any highlights. If it's 0, we just continue. We can throw an error and say that the user doesn't have highlights. It's whatever. So let's have an insights and an error. So what I'm thinking here is that we're going to have a function called build insights, and this is going to receive the highlights, and yeah, so it receives the highlights, and what it's going to do, it's going to start to prepare the data for the templates, because here at the end, the last step is going to be, for example, it could throw an error, the service, and we're going to have a mailer, for example, and we're going to send these insights, and here we're going to send insights. So there's a difference between the insights and highlights, because an insights, it's basically this. It's the text of the highlights and any other metadata, for example, the book title, the user ID, the username, whatever, it's attached to these insights. Now, this is the structure that a daily insight could have. For example, it's going to have the text, a note, because if there is a note, there's going to show below the book authors and the book title. So let's just save this and let's create this function. Build insights. Again, we know that we are receiving a slice of highlights. And that we are going to return that structure that we just created, the daily insights, and we can return an error as well. We'll see how this goes. So to start off, let's create an empty insight slice that is going to be the output. So basically what we need to do is to do some sort of transformation from a highlights to daily insights. Now, one of the things we need to do is we can just start by looping of the highlights, and that thing we need to do is actually fetch a book, because if we take a look, the highlights has a book reference, but we don't store the actual book inside this, right? So for that, let's get the book. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add this again to the service to be a method, because we need to access the store. We could do this or just pass here a parameter where we receive the store. I'm going to do it this way. And then we need to go to the store and get the book by SBN. So this is already created in the interface, but it's not implemented, or actually it is implemented. Nice. So yeah, what does it? Gets a book from the database from ISBN, which is the ID. After that, let's handle the error properly. So now what we do is that we append the insights with the new insights that we just are going to create, right? So we got the book, we got everything. So here again, we have the text, which is from the highlight. And then from the book, we have the other metadata, which is the book authors and the title. And with this, we can just return at the end the insights and a nil error. Back here, we got the built insights from a method, and we have the insights. We can just handle the error like this. And we are getting an error here. That's because this is actually wrong. This is a pointer. Now it's fixed. So let's go to the part where we create the mailer service and we start sending the insights. So to do that, let's go back here to the service and add the new dependency, the mailer. It's going to be called mailer. To do that, let's create a new file as well here, the mailer.go. And this is going to be just a type mailer interface, right? What this interface will do for now is just send the insights and return an error. Now we're going to think about what this is going to receive. The first thing that we actually know, it's insights. It's going to be a slide of the daily insights. It's going to also receive the user, because we need the username to customize the email for each user. And I think this is it for now. So next thing, let's go and create a file, and I'm going to call this SendGrid.go. SendGrid is the software that we're going to use to send the emails. It's pretty popular. And this is going to be just an implementation of a mailer. So it could be any mailer. If you want to go with another mailer, you can just implement a new file with the name of your mailer and have the same interface implementation, and you're going to be good to go. So let's have SendGrid mailer struct, and information that is going to hold. The first thing is going to be the from email, the email that is going to send the mail. Then we actually have the actual client, which is SendGrid dot clients. This is a package, we can just import it from here. All right, so let's create a constructor to get the new SendGrid mailer. It's going to receive an API key. We need that for initialization, and then a from email as well. So let's initialize the client, which is SendGrid.new SendGrid client, and it just requires the API key, and it's good to go. And we just return a new mailer, a new SendGrid mailer here with the from email and the client. And we need to add here that we're returning a SendGrid mailer. So here I have the signature for the send insights that we already typed. Now let's do the actual implementation. So what we need to do is, I just followed the documentation from the SendGrid Go package, and this is what we're going to do. So we have a mail.new email, And here we need, let's just import this and make sure that it's from this package. And here we need a from email. Let me see. Yeah, it's the name. This name is going to be the from name, not the email. And here we actually have the address, so which is the from email. So the from name we can either add here, or I'm just gonna put it here. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it here as a global variables, whatever, because this is just related to the actual project. So node base, that's what I call it. Basically, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna receive an email from node base, like I have here at the title. That's basically what it does. Now the subject, it's pretty important as well. So I'm gonna call this daily insights, which could be a singular if you have one insight or you just want one insight as well. And the username, which is going to be the name of the actual user that you want to send. So I'm just going to do copy paste here. Now we need to do a validation as well. Now, if the user does not have an email, we cannot send an email. And this should actually be the first thing that we do here. If the user doesn't have an email, let's just return an error. And I think that's the only validation we need for now. The next thing we need is the to. So let's do a mail.new email. It's going to be the username and then the u.email. By this time we have all the information. We can actually build the templates. I'm gonna have some HTML. So before that, there's a couple ways we can do this. The first one is you can go to SendGrid and create a template. So you can create, for example, I have here the liquid template, and you can use that template to send the emails. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a HTML file in my server, and then we're gonna populate that HTML file and send it with Golang. I think it's more interesting because you own the template, it's on your side, but you lose the flexibility of these tools like HTML editors in there. So if you're not comfortable with HTML, we can just do it in the browser. Otherwise, we can create an HTML file and send it ourselves. We can call this something like build inside mail templates. And let's go and create this function below. Now this function is going to receive a templates directory, or actually, no, let's keep it like this. So just the user for now, the insights, and I think that's it. It returns a string, which is going to be a string of HTML. The first thing we do is get the file name of the template. So let's do file path.join. And it could be just, no, we don't need this. I'm going to keep everything inside the root. So I'm just going to go here and create daily.temple. So this is what we're going to be using, the Golang official templates packaging. So here what we do is we create some sort of temple, we parse it, and we send, you can send variables to that template, and it populates the templates in real time. So what we're going to do is have an HTML text. So it's going to be very simple HTML. We have a head, then we're going to have the body, and inside the body we can have a title. For example, this is going to be the same exact template I have here. So hey, then this is going to be dynamic templates, dynamic data, which is going to be the user.firstname. Then we start a list. This is the list, which is going to have all the insights. So we're going to range over it. This is special syntax from the Go templates. You can learn more about it here on the documentation. And here we just have some styling. This is the text for the actual insights. We have a note, an optional note. And then here we have the others. So here back on the build insights mail templates, let's go and grab a reference to that template and parse it. So there is a function to do that from the package templates from Go. Then we handle the error. For this case, I'm just going to panic. I don't want to handle the error directly. Then let's create the payloads. This payload can be anonymous structure like this, and it's gonna be like user, a pointer to user. What is this? This is basically the information that they're passing here. So we have a user, and we also have the insights, right? So the user and the insights below. I'm gonna put this lowercase. I can do this uppercase, it's fine. Like we have, so it's insights. Let me just copy from here so we don't make a mistake. Insights. And this is gonna be a slice of daily insights. Then we can just initialize it and call the user. Here we have the users, and then the insights, we also have them, which is this here. Then the last thing we need to do is actually execute the template. So let's have here a buffer. Let's call the temple.execute here. So we have the temple, which is template.templates. We pass in the output and the payload. Then let's panic if we don't have an error. And at the end, let's just convert these bytes into a string, and we have our string of HTML. So here we have the HTML, we don't have an error to handle because we are just panicking, and we need to send the user and the insights. Then final thing we need to do is create a message. It's going to be from the SendGrid mail, new single email, new single, how is it? New email, new single email, like this. From, we need the from. The subject, we also have the subject already. Then we need a to. Plain text contents, we don't have any, so we can leave this empty, but we actually have an HTML. We can pass in the HTML. This is the message, and it's going to send the email after we do this. So the last thing we need to do is response m.clients, and let's do a send, and here we pass the message, right? If there's an error, because it's very likely that it can be an error on this call, we just do a println. For now, we can just log it. Yeah, and just return nil at the end. Actually, let's just return the error since we have it, and we don't need the response. And this is it. So let's go back to our service and finalize everything, and we might actually be able to test this. So let's pass the insights, the user, and this is it. So finally we handle the error. I'm just gonna return an internal status as well again. And at the end, we already built the templates, so we can just write JSON, status okay, everything worked, you got the email in your inbox, hopefully. So now that we have all the functionality out of the way, and if we try to run the project, it's probably gonna fail because we did not hook up the malware dependency that we described. So let's go back to the api.go, which is the entry points to start the API, and let's paste in here a malware where we create a new SendGrid malware. And if you recall, from my SendGrid implementation, I need an API key and a from email. Now, I'm going to be lazy and I'm just going to go here and type my key. But what you should do is get this from your environment variable, right? Where can you get the SendGrid's variables? Is you go to SendGrid, of course, and here probably on the settings you can get that if you don't have a new account already. Then we need the from email, and this again should be from your variables, right? All right, so I went ahead and created this simple file here, the config.go, which gonna load the configuration from the environment variables. I didn't want to just leave that as a string, so this is a very quick solution that you can do this. There is packages that do this, but I just implemented a very simple configuration. You can add here more, like the server port, the database export all of that. I just did here with the SendGrid. So we have the configuration, initializes it, and then we just get this singleton from our API.go, and we just say SendGrid.api from email. And the way that I'm loading environment variables into the environment is that I'm using .envrc, which is this little software here, the DRenv. Basically, you install this and then you can just load, it just loads automatically environment variables inside of this file from your projects. For example, you do this, which then the config.go is going to read this key, and it's going to map this to that object, and you're going to have environment on the fly, right? So the last thing we need to do is pass mailer to the service. We have the store and the service here, and the mailer. We need to extend this to accept a mailer instance. Like this. Good. What's the problem? Mailer. Oh, yeah, it's correct. It's correct. All right. So this should be good to go. Let's try, and I need to do a .env allow and make run. And we should have no errors. We're connected to the database and the API is running. All right, so before we actually try and hit our endpoint, there is two things that we need to change that I made a mistake, which is the first is this scan is wrong. So we need to move the email to the second place, because if we go to my signature, the email is actually the second one, and on the database, if you go here, the email is the second one. So just that detail. And then there is another here, which is the book could also receive here the created that, and that should be it. So if you go ahead and do a make run again, no errors again, and we hit the endpoint. So I'm going to use an HTTP client. You can use anything, a curl, Postman, wherever. This is the signature, send, and there we go. We got 200. And if I go to my inbox, I should have here the email from myself, so the note base and the daily insights subject, and there we go. We got 3 random highlights, and if I send it again, I should get a new email in my inbox. I go back, so I have a new one here, and there you go, another 3 random insights again. So everyone, we have built the complete service. This is all of the code that we need to get the basic functionality of Readwise, something similar. And this was our proposal that we started with. So here we have this part completed, where we have basically the source code. We could just containerize this with Docker really quick. If you want that, let me know in the comments, and I'll create a second part where we actually build all of this infrastructure. I have already a video on my channel where we actually do, we containerize an application, which is a Node.js application, but it doesn't matter. We put it in Cloud Run and we deploy it very simple. And all we need to do is do this and then set up a scheduler on Google Cloud, for example, that is going to call these endpoints every day or whenever you want. And then the email is going to be sent automatically to all the subscribers in the database. So this is it, guys. If this video was helpful in any shape or form, let me know. Consider giving a like, subscribe, or leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.